is a beautiful day in Seattle. I just can't get over this amazing weather. Check this out. All right, my room is up there. Right up there somewhere. Let's go up and take a look at it. Not a bad view. Hey guys, Evan here, and I am in Seattle, Washington for the Design Technology Summit, which is the precursor a couple of days before the BILT conference, which is one of the best Revit/technology and architecture conferences going. Last year I went and it was in St. Louis, Missouri. This year it's in Seattle. If you didn't see last year's video, I can't believe it's already been a whole year. Click right up here on the little thingy that's floating above the video. You can watch that video. It was a fantastic venue as well. This year it's in this beautiful brand new hotel. Like, it literally just opened a couple of months ago, and you can still smell the drywall mud in the bathroom. Like it hasn't fully cured yet. But check out this view. It's a gorgeous view of the bay and the city. Yesterday we had a little bit of time to go walk. It was perfect weather, so we went down to the wharf and we went and visited the Amazon Spheres and the Seattle Public Library and the Starbucks Reserve Store, because you got to go there when you're here. Anyway, I'm hoping for a little bit of good weather again in a couple days to get out and go explore. But in the meantime, the next 2 days I'm going to be in the Design Technology Summit. And it's a lot of large firms like ours at HMC getting together, talking about design technology, automation, artificial intelligence, all of these, the big buzzwords in technology, but how are they dealing with them? What are they looking at? What are they looking forward to? What are they fighting against? And really sharing a lot of kind of roundtable discussion kind of stuff. Noah Kelly, my colleague, is going to be in Day-to-Day. It's hard to say that. Day-to-Day, 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 3 times, Day-to-Day, Data-Day. Where they're talking about interoperability between applications, APIs, code. I'm really looking forward to see what he pulls out of that session. He's more on the implementation side of the day-to-day tools. Day-to-day, not day-to-day. So yeah, super confusing lingo there. Anyway, I'm going to go sit in 2 days worth of conference. I'm going to come back. I'm going to tell you what I learned. Anyway, I've got a Seattle super cut of B-roll that I want you to watch while I am at the conference. I'm going to show it to you now. The Design Technology Summit and BILT conference is coming to a close, and it has been a whirlwind 3 days for sure. So much information. I just wanted to focus in on a couple things, otherwise this video will be super long. So let's see, where should I begin? All right, I had to go somewhere a little bit more quiet. Hang on. First thing I wanted to talk about is the keynote by Phil Bernstein. Phil Bernstein has a fantastic presentation. I've heard a little bit of it before, but really it was all about his book that he recently wrote. I'll link to it in the show notes below this because I think it's really worth checking out. It's a very cool book about kind of the next level of where we're going with BIM, because it's never been fully realized. And I think that's really the thing to get across from Phil's talk, is that he thinks that, and I think that, paper should die. The reason that BIM has not become fully realized, I mean, look at these buildings that we're making here. I mean, they're amazing, but they're still built from sheets of paper as far as architects are concerned. And that's just insane. And that is one of the reasons why BIM has never been fully realized, is because of all the data that lives in those models does not make it to the sheets of paper. And I think the second big takeaway from Phil's talk is about how the profession has evolved to the architect is chosen based on the lowest bid. Then the consultants are they're picked based on the lowest bid. And then the job goes, the job goes out to bid, and then the contractors based on the lowest fee, and then the subcontractors are all chosen based on their lowest fee. And you have this completely commoditized process that has been just crunched down to the most sub-optimized, how is this even a successful thing? And so I think when you think about it that way, it really puts it into perspective that the entire process for our, future survival's sake and the whole construction industry's sake needs to be rethought, and really based on the value that we offer to the clients, which is really about designing a building that's going to perform the way the client needs it to, wants it to, for the next 50 to 100 years, and that the value-based outcome should really be what this whole thing is based on, not on this sub-optimized, super constrained process that we've come up with. So really the gap between design intent, which is what our models are mostly all about as far as architects go, we're not modeling to super high levels of detail, and the fabrication process that exists out there. I mean, the amount of tools and machines and robotics and everything that has been developed to create parts for buildings, that gap really needs to get smaller. And that is where the next level of BIM is going to be developing around, is getting that data-rich environment exposed to all the players, which is going to mean that we have to take on a little bit more risk. We have to put more into our models so that we get more out of the back end, and we're in control of more of that. You know what they have inside these spheres? Meeting rooms. Some very expensive meeting rooms. Amazon is crazy. So how are we going to get out of this commoditization mire that we're in, that we've been in? We have to change our business plan. We have to change our business model. And it's easy to say, hard to do for sure. But I just don't see how we can continue to operate the way that we operate right now. Because if we continue to just do what we do and we don't change, then we will either be out-innovated or disrupted, or whatever you want to call it, by somebody who will. All right, another cool idea that I picked up on here was mentioned by Steve Burrows. He was interviewed up on the main stage at BILT. Check him out. I'll put a link to him in the notes below as well, to his LinkedIn page. Written a couple of neat articles, worked for big companies like Katera most recently. But I think he made a very interesting point, because a lot of times, we look at the innovation curve. And this slide was on display so many times at this conference, where they show how since 1964, the innovation and technology curve for architecture and construction has gone down. We've got about 82% since 1964, whereas like any non-farm industry is gone way up. So I think what's super interesting about that is that he said, a lot of times us as architects, we look at the product industry. You look at places like Katera, or where they're making modular prefabricated architecture or something like that. And the point that Steve made, which I thought was interesting, was he said that you look at the automotive industry, where you've got these kind of standard items made out of custom parts. So these things are coming off the assembly line, totally standard, Toyota Camry, Tesla, it doesn't matter what the car model is, but it's made out of completely custom parts. And the architectural industry is exactly the opposite. It's totally unique buildings made out of completely standard parts. I never really thought of it that way. I thought that was a pretty interesting way to look at that. And so the model doesn't really apply to what we're doing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, so 2 questions and then an action. First question, where do you see your firm, your business, yourself 3 to 5 years from now? Define it. Figure it out. What markets do you want to serve? Who are the clients that you want to be serving? Number 2 is, what do you love doing? What makes you feel like you're doing the most meaningful thing that you could be doing, providing the most value for? All right, so those are the first 2 questions. Then, find and leverage technology to help you achieve what you're really good at, and that will work you toward that 3 to 5 year goal. So you figure out where you're going, and then you pick the tools and the technologies and the processes and the workflows to get you there. Not the other way around. You don't just pick the shiny tool up front and then figure out how it's going to serve you. It doesn't work like that. It's a little bit of food for thought to kind of close out this video before I need to jump on a flight tomorrow morning. I got to get on a plane at 5:30, so I got to figure out how to get to the airport and all that stuff. But this is interesting because this quote came up several times at this conference, and I think it's super appropriate to the things we're talking about. We're talking about 3 to 5 years out. We're talking about looking at the long term, where we want to be going. But I don't know if you've heard of this, but it came up several times. Amara's Law. And Amara's Law says that we tend to overestimate the effect that technology is going to have in the short term, and we tend to underestimate the effect that technology is going to have in the long term. I think that is so interesting because it's true, right? We overestimate how important these things are to implement now. We're looking at the shiny new technology. We've got to get it going. It's the only way we're going to make this thing work, and we do it and we do it. We're constantly evolving and moving. And at the same time, we don't fully invest in it, and we don't do it the right way, because in the long term, this has bitten everybody in the butt. We don't fully utilize the application, especially when it's like a process technology like BIM. Talking about how it's not being fully utilized, it's because we're always looking for shortcuts, we're looking for workarounds, the software doesn't always do what we want it to do right when we need it. Patches happen over time, people don't learn the latest things that the applications can even do, they don't even know that these operations exist. So we're constantly fighting this battle. But I think it's true, we do overestimate what it can do in the short term. We know adoption's hard. We know that learning new things is very difficult. We know that change is hard. But in the long term, we underestimate the actual effect that it's going to have. Look where BIM is. Look where these really mature process technologies and applications and hardware are. It's pretty amazing how much we rely on them as the way we deliver our business. So something to think about, food for thought. That was really kind of like the exclamation mark on the end of this conference. I really think that kind of sums it up nicely, and it's something to really think about kind of deeply.
Gentlemen, welcome to Ontario, California. Local time is approximately 8:31.
All right, I just landed in Ontario, and it's good to be home after a long week of learning and tons of new stuff, lots to think about. Anyway, I've got to get on a plane tomorrow morning, taking the family on a vacation, headed to Hawaii. Got to get this video edited, got to get it up. I think that's it for this trip. Looking forward to the next one.